tonight. Of course, it's Bell Let's Talk Month. I mean, couldn't have been coming at a better time. I'm just going to give it another minute, get a couple more people in the room, and then we'll turn it right over to Jeff Edwards of Level A Professional Group. He runs the LIFT program with Level A, tons of experience, very knowledgeable. So happy you're here today, Jeff. Thanks for your time.
Oh, you're so kind.
Whenever you're ready, you can hit share screen in your presentation. I made you a co-host as well, so you should be good.
All right. So you ready? You just tell me when you're ready to go. I'm glad your cat was there, because my cat's sitting over on the counter there, and my two golden doodles are sitting on the couch over here, and I'm sitting in an uncomfortable chair. Not quite fair, is it?
No, our coworkers are constantly switching these days. Excellent. Welcome everybody to Speaker Series. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to Jeff's talk today. A couple things before we get started. If you'd like to switch your view to speaker view, that way when Jeff is talking and has the floor, the screen will just be full of Jeff for you. Today's event does get recorded, so if you don't want to risk getting your face on the screen, you could just pop your camera off if you like. And then we've got time allotted at the end for Q&A. So if you've come with questions or you have questions throughout, please jump in. And I'm going to turn it right over to you, Jeff. I'll put myself on mute. Again, this is Jeff Edwards from Level A Professional Group. He runs the LIFT program supporting employees and families.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for those that are with us right now. And I know there'll be many, many more members of the chamber and different business people that'll be watching this afterwards. And at some point during the presentation, about 12:20, I have a friend of mine, Dr. Harrison Mungal, is supposed to be joining us. He's a psychotherapist that runs a number of offices all over the Toronto area, a very dear friend of mine. And he's going to be available to take some questions for about 15 minutes or so. So if you have some things that have been concerning you with the mental health arenas and everything in life and business, I encourage you to write those down. As you said, it's Let's Talk Month. You know, I was just sitting here and I was thinking one of the most important things that people need to remember is that my statement there was team support. It's just good business. You know, I've got some statistics. Everybody loves statistics. And it says the World Health Organization estimates that depression and anxiety costs the global economy $1 trillion per year. And it says that for every dollar spent on treating common mental health concerns, there's a return of $4 in returnable health and productivity. And I think that's one of the things that's very important that we need to understand. It's very common right now with everything that's going on with people's lives, the COVID that we're dealing with. Every business is different. Whether you're in retail or you're in manufacturing, we do a lot with manufacturing. And once again, just a brief background on the LIFT program. What the LIFT program was done by Staffing Connection and Level A, it was birthed out of a program a number of years ago that was cooperative with the government, to where they took people who were unemployable, taught them life skills, held them to accountability, and then got them employed and kept them employed. And so the heart behind this program is to reach out and support our team members that are part of our community. And what we do is we've become a great resource center. Now, one of the things we're going to be looking at is how you can give this type of support without spending a lot of dollars. There's a lot that can be done, and we all know it needs to be done. You know, when we look at the reality that emphasizing employee wellness and support will help to keep the workforce, our human capital, healthier and more productive. You know, it's so important to develop a corporate wellness program, and it'll decrease the medical conditions and increase retention. And that's so important. And that's what we're seeing today. People are dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with depression. They're dealing with just being overwhelmed. I had a funny little example. Overwhelmed isn't always just bad things. Overwhelmed could be you got too many things, just good things going on. It's like my one golden retriever, it's golden doodle. My one golden doodle is a toy hog. Okay, and so we got him a bunch of toys for Christmas for the two doodles. Well, the one kept gathering all the toys up and holding them, and it was just creating anxiety, and he couldn't go any place. He was just wrapped up in it. We noticed as we took some of them away from him, his anxiety levels went down. Well, you know what? I think it's the same way with sometimes in life. Right now, people are dealing with all kinds of stuff on their plate. Before COVID started, statistics said that Canada was number 3 in the world for antidepressants. Now, we're very aware that people have needs. We're very aware that the mental health things are very important. And we want to get to the point where we're empowering a stronger team. Okay, and how does that work? Well, at the LIFT program, what we've done is we've created a place where it's a safe place they can call. We do coaching. They can call up and just say, I'm having a bad day. We can work with them. We point them towards resources. There are many resources. Matter of fact, if you visit our webpage, one of the great resources that we have is called a virtual hope box. And that was recommended by my friend, Dr. Harrison Mungal. And it's just a little box that you can go on, you can download it. It's an app, and it's got meditative, reflective, inspirational things. Doesn't cost you anything, but it just helps people deal with anxiety. Um, in manufacturing and in retail, or in the office community, whatever it is, we're becoming very much aware that when we invest in people, it increases our productivity and our profits by generating a positive culture in the workforce. We've all heard all the great statements, together each accomplishes more. We know all the great inspirational talks, but the reality of it is putting the rubber or tires on the road and moving it down the road. One of the things we want to express is that we care. And an acrostic of care is creating a relational environment, okay? Because that's what people are lacking the most. They're lacking that connection. And so in the mental health arenas, getting people to be able to connect is crucial. And so the government itself has some great websites that you can go to and utilize that are free resources. And once again, we'll assist anybody that wants them. That's what I do is I research a lot of material to have different resources available. So when people call us from one of our team members that's perhaps struggling with a family issue, well, I've got some place I can send him to, and it doesn't cost them anything because there's so much free help. We also have the government offers a mind program that is available to everyone that is a cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's free to anyone at this time. And that's why I'll get you those resources if you want them. And I'll ask you a question. What is your EAP, as the business world calls it, or your employee assistance program? You might be sitting there going, well, I'm a small operation. I'm a 1 or a 2 person, or I'm 50 people in the manufacturing, or I'm in retail, or I'm in office management, or something like that. But if you're not intentional, nothing will happen. And that's why the LIFT program was created, because we wanted to be intentional to come along and support and let them know that people are not alone. I send out every day to certain members of the team. I have what I call a lift today. It's just an inspirational talk that I send to them. And I want to give you some things that they talk about with how to help people, and not necessarily spend a lot of money doing it, you know. And one of them is helping people to prioritize the work-life balance. We're seeing people right now that have had, obviously, if we're sitting in our home, we're doing a Zoom meeting. Okay. We're not in the office. We're finding that's a little bit different. You got to deal with things at home you wouldn't have to deal with the office, or stresses that are related there. Finding the right work-life balance. So, what are you doing to do that? And how can you do it? Okay. One of the things that's very important to help people with where they're at right now is making them part of the big picture, letting them see how important they are as an individual to those that are next to them and to those that are part of their whole team. To be transparent and honest, I think that's one of the great things. We're all struggling right now. How are you handling it? How are you doing? Are you modeling the correct behavior of work-life balance? Are you modeling, what, I'm having some challenges here, I'm going to get some help? And that's very important, being willing to come out of what you think is the normal and get the help that's needed. You know, you've got to look and you've got to encourage communication. Uh, One of the big things about anxiety, one of the big things about depression is you begin to close up. They begin to shut everybody off. Well, we've got to create an environment where people are free to talk, where they can express themselves. That's why psychotherapy is so important right now, because a lot of times it's people just talking and working their way through things. And so I want you to be intentional. If you haven't been, uh, you might go, it's overwhelming to think about it. But you got to start someplace. Okay, start with yourself, start modeling the behavior, ask yourself, how do we work this in? Because it really does affect productivity, retention, attitude, and all of that drops to the bottom line. And so many of these things is by promoting a positive work environment. I find that's one of the easiest things to do. And what do you do? How do you start the day? um, Finding a kind word to say to people, very practical, simple things, telling people thank you, encouraging people, finding out what makes them tick, you know, uh, set the example in your life of that. And always, some of the things that we've lost that make people feel far apart, and they're very simple, is just thank you, appreciate that. All right, you're welcome. Find something intentional to compliment someone on. Uh, you know, many of us, depending on where we're at in the business background, you know, we've read things by Ken Blanchard, and you know, he said the 1 minute manager, and the great thing that I learned there 30 years ago was find people doing something right instead of finding people doing something wrong. Every day, make it a point of finding them to do something, finding out something doing right. Recognize and reward people. Offer benefits beyond the basics. You know, sometimes you can't necessarily give monetary benefits, but there are things you could do. You know, let them go home early. You know, find out what really will make them feel special. I think everybody needs to recognize that in life, we're all different, we're all individuals, and what is good for one person isn't necessarily good for another. So if you're very intentional about doing that, then what you'll find is your people will seek the help. And there is so much help right now. The stigma on mental health is put away. Now you might ask yourself a question. Uh, do people use the mental health as a way of not being productive? Do they fall into it? Absolutely. But you can help determine the fact of getting them who really has mental health issues. Okay, the mind balance is so important. But if you're not consistent on it, you know, one of the greatest challenges in people's lives today is that we've got to learn to recognize. Ask yourself this question right now. Are you honest with yourself? What's causing challenges in your life? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Where's the disconnections going on? How's your productivity? How are you doing? What's your attitude towards life? Are you taking care of yourself? You know, I actually utilized the Mind Beacon program from the government that is offered free. I actually utilized it myself because I didn't want to recommend something that I've not gone through. And so when I went through the Mind Beacon program, I found out, you know what, it was very helpful. And that's a free for program, Mind Beacon. I'll send you the link on it. You can get it. The mental health industry is exploding. Okay, it's just exploding. And as we go through the things on mental health and recognize that, I wrote this down here, and I want to say it to you. You know, we need to be intentional with everyday conversations with people. We need to show that others need them and they're very important. We need to challenge them. We need to recognize them as an individual. Okay. Um, the employee assistance program is so crucial. It ensures us to be able to remain productive, even when faced with difficult circumstances. For instance, one of the things that we've had from the LIFT program, I've had people, we use what's called a chaplaincy. People have had deaths in their family. They don't know where to turn. People have needed help finding babysitters because they want to work. They don't know where to turn. You see, just by becoming a resource center, We've had people that could only work 2 days because the anxiety and the pressure was too much on them and they couldn't deal with the depression. So by working with them, we were able to get them to work 3, 4, and 5 days because they found somebody to come alongside them and care. The fact of when you ask yourself, what are some action steps that you can take to make this come to pass, to really show people that you care, and show them that, you know what, you could support people in such a very positive way. And I think one of the things that's, I'm very much, I like to be proactive in everything I do, to be able to take each employee and spend a few moments with them, find out what the life is going on, find out what the pressures are in life, let them know that you're there to work with them, come alongside them if they're having pressures in life that they don't know how to handle. And I think in business, if we look at this, we'll see that it is good business because our greatest asset is our people, our greatest asset. And when we take action steps and we make a decision that we're going to do something, and I think that's very, very, very important. A lot of people just, they're wandering through this COVID thing. We're looking for things to get back to normal. Can I tell you what? They're never going back to normal. People have been changed. Can I tell you what? People have been traumatized. The new norm in business is you've got to learn to work with people who have been traumatized. And see, trauma holds memory. It holds memory. Your body holds memory. And that trauma, to be able to work beyond that trauma, is something in business that we're going to have to help people do if we want to see them for the long term be productive, if we want to see them have that good, healthy balance. And so if you think it's just going to go back to the way it was when everybody gets a vaccine, not going to happen. Okay. If you think that it's going to go back to what it was and that none of this is real, it's not true. Okay. So what we're going to have to do is be proactive. And if you think I can't do this because we're not a large company, well, there are things that you can do. The things that I'm offering and the things that we're doing at Lift Support, many of them, although the company has gotten behind the program because I'm fully funded by the Staffing Connection and Level A. All right. People can call me. I'm resourcing. I let every employee that comes on board know that there's a lift support program here if they're dealing with anxiety, pressure, if they have a need. And ultimately, we want them to be able to recognize that we care. And see, that's a word that's very important, is that you care. But making a decision. What are you going to do if things don't change in the next 6 months? How are you going to handle it? What's going to be your employee assistance program to be able to support your people during this season and get them to the next place? You're going to have to make a decision. And I encourage you, if you don't have an employee assistance program, then start something today. Might look as simple as some of the things I'm talking about. I could give you free resources that you could just send them out to email to all your people. Say, hey, we were thinking about you and we've got this great resource. It's free. And if you make that decision, make a decision today that you're just going to make it a point of encouraging every single person and let them know that it's a safe place to talk to and that you understand. When you look at this, and then you go through the details of bringing things to pass. Now, what does that look like? I don't know what all the details for your particular industry. I've spent a lot of time talking to people in manufacturing, okay? And the manufacturing people, I'll tell you what, they've dealt with a lot of different things. They deal with a lot of high turnover. They deal with the atmosphere in the factory. Sometimes that's not the most positive atmosphere in some of them, but yet they're making a concerted effort to turn it around. And what they're doing is they're creating a positive work environment. They're following all the governmental protocols. They're educating themselves. Are you educating yourself? Okay. I think that's very, very crucial that you educate yourself on what's going on. I know when we look at these things, you know, one of the greatest things I like to say is I'm putting my number up here. Okay. It's jeff@liftsupport.ca. I'd love to engage in conversation. I'd love to discuss our journey on what we're doing because it's constantly changing. I'll gladly give you any free resources and point you in the directions. I'll have dialogue. But Henry Ford said it this way: if everyone is moving forward together, success takes care of itself. You know, and like it or not, we have to, I believe it was Peter Drucker that said a leader's first responsibility is to define reality. All right, it looks like Harrison just came on there. Did Dr. Harrison come on there? Could you put him on for me? Because I want to open it up. Um, I'm going to stop share. Is that what I need to do right here?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop share.
Perfect.
And if we could put Dr. Harrison Mungal up there, and if you have some questions, I'd like to just open it up because he helps a lot of people, and I recommend a lot of people to him. He does a great job, and he's agreed to participate with us. So can I let you do that?
Absolutely. Welcome. Welcome to Speaker Series, Dr. Harrison Mungal. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you all.
Excellent. Well, before we jump into questions, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Harrison?
Sure. I am, where do I start? I have been I was in psychiatry for 15 years, worked in mental health for about 20, worked with several psychiatrists, including the chief of psychiatry. I worked with the police as well, doing a lot of mental health assessments with them. About 2-3 years ago, I started my practice, and before COVID, my practice boomed to about 7 offices. So now most of it is virtual. I have 3 clinicians that are consultants for me. I am completing a second doctorate degree in clinical psychology right now. What else can I tell you? I'm an author. I have over 20 books out. I am a public speaker. I've been to about 34 nations. I'm usually, every month I'm away somewhere speaking at some event. Even now I'm doing a lot of Zoom sessions in Europe, mainly in France and Germany and the Netherlands, and they connect with people from South Africa and every places. What else can I tell you? I love what I do. It's a passion of mine. I can work 24/7. In my job, I don't get tired of it. An average day for me is about 8 to 10 clients a day, and I enjoy it. Yeah, I'm a father of 7 kids. I have 2 grandkids.
Her face just exploded there, and they're a wonderful family, by the way. Okay.
I have 3 married daughters, and I have so 6 daughters, 1 son, 3 are married. Yeah, that's about it. But you can ask questions. That's in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll start the ball rolling because I know not everybody is comfortable public speaking, but please ask your questions. Let's start here. Sometimes as leaders, we might not have the tools to kind of recognize when a staff member might be spiraling. Is there kind of key behaviors that can trigger us to think, oh, maybe I should take a step and give this person some resources?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah.
So typically, you know, one of the things I encourage leaders is that you need to tap into the emotional intelligence and be able to analyze individuals' emotions. And especially in this time and age where a lot of times individuals are struggling with their own personal issues, like from home or whatever, they come into the workplace or you are associated with them, it can be a bit stressful. And our natural instinct is always try to fix other people's issues. When we see a problem, our natural instinct is to fix it. And I think a lot of times it's always good to step back and maybe try to do the reverse as to what your mind will want you to do. So if your mind is like, I need to talk to this person, they are looking a little bit down or depressed, or maybe they're on the edge, it's better to kind of step back and try to to take another approach, because sometimes direct approach may not be the best strategy.
Excellent. And Trisha Moran has a question for you. I'm just going to get her to unmute here.
Hi. Sorry, can you hear me?
Absolutely, Trisha.
Okay, I kind of have the inauguration in the background as well.
We all do.
So it's like, come on. Anyways, I'm sorry. Okay, so I have had mental health issues. So I'm sorry, I can't remember the doctor's name. If he can tell me what his name is.
It's Harrison.
Harrison. Okay, I'm sorry. And where are you based, Dr. Harrison? Are you based in Peterborough?
No, I'm based in Caledon.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. The reason it's kind of like a question for him and for Jeff. So I'm in the process of trying to start up a business that involves working with newly released inmates. And I want to have a really well-rounded program. Now, for somebody like myself, I've been in the system, so I get it. You come out and they're like, best of luck, but that's not how it is. So what would you think that I would need? You know, how would I best deal with situations where people have mental health issues? I mean, I understand anxiety, I understand PTSD, I get trauma, but they're all from my perspective, and everyone's perspective is different. So I'm not quite sure. Like, the idea is to create programs using equine therapy as a way and a means to assist them to reintegrate back into society, so that they, kind of like the LIFT program, they have the life skills. Horses are incredibly honest. If they don't like you, they'll give you a kick. You know, they don't lie. You know, so I was just wondering, do you have any suggestions for what, even Jeff, what I could include in the programs that I'm trying to create that would help people who are dealing with trauma, which is basically what happens when you get out of jail, because you're traumatized. That's how you end up with recidivism rates.
Well, interestingly, before maybe Jeff answers, well, probably about 20 years ago or 25 years ago, I worked with men who were in federal parole.
What's it called?
They were, it was like a halfway house.
Yeah,
and
okay.
So, yeah, so, and there were several of them who, you know, had some trauma-related issues from being in prison, or even the whole scenario that led them to where they were and trying to integrate back in society. So first, I want to commend you. That's an excellent position.
Well, I also heard the chief of police recently giving out about how there's no services in Peterborough to connect people to that. And I've had a lot of encouragement from different people. Sometimes I think I'm off my rocker trying to do this. Excuse the expression. And other times I think, no, I'm doing this because this is what my way of giving back.
Right.
Like I said, it's in the idea phase, and I've reached out to the CMHA and I've gotten some really good responses. So I'm looking for external stakeholders that would be able to assist in coming up with ideas that I can create into the program. Does that make sense? So like, it's kind of like feedback. So it would be people like the Peterborough Police. It would be, you know, the parole board. It would be parole officers, you know, probation officers, the court system, like all those people that personally I never thought I would ever engage with. I mean, I understand from my perspective the trauma, because when I got out, I was a mess. Like, it was like, I couldn't do anything. I think what saved me was having the services that I had, and I reached out to in Peterborough, and my dogs. That was the other big thing.
If I could say something there for just a second.
Sure.
Do you have a plan? Are you trying to model this like after something that's already existing? Because one of the things that we've done is I spent a lot of time researching, and I've pulled together just a lot of resource from all over the community of the different organizations that already are doing a great job at helping. And so what our program is all about is just becoming a resource, kind of a centralized go-to. I would be very interested if you wanted to contact me, send me information, more of an outline of what you're doing, trying to do. I do whatever I can.
Well, right now I had a meeting with Hillary from the Peterborough Ventures. So I'm in the process of creating the business plan.
Okay.
So obviously it's going to change. And she sent me some links that I have to work on. So, but like I said, I want to also speak to external personnel like Dr. Harrison, like yourself. You know, I tried contacting the chief of police, but I haven't gotten a response, which I thought was, I must be crazy doing this, because I never thought I would ever be reaching out to the police.
Well, I think the most important thing is to be specific, be intentional, paper what you're looking to have
so
done.
basically the idea is I've kind of created a model in and around the inmate program that they have in Wyoming. So using wild mustangs as a way and a means to rehabilitate people, because to communicate effectively, you need patience. And when you're dealing with horses, you have to have patience, because otherwise they're just going to A, they're going to give you a kick, or B, they're just going to run away from you. So there's a lot of life skills that come into this. So yeah, like, so it's getting people on board that can, you know,
Yeah.
kind of narrow down my, you know, I have an idea in my head, but getting that to fit with the reality is always a little bit different. So I definitely would get in touch with you, Jeff. And I'd like to reach out to Dr. Harrison too. So sorry about that.
We will get you guys to connect, absolutely. And after this meeting, I'll send out some resources that Jeff will provide me and some links and maybe some contact info as well.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I would really like to at least get in touch with Jeff, and then we can go from there. But also Dr. Harrison.
Perfect. Good.
Awesome.
I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Sure.
Our next question, Lindsay Walker Torelli. Welcome to Chamber AM. I mean, welcome to Speaker Series.
There's a lot going on. I just want to ask a follow-up question to Dr. Harrison. So he mentioned that, you know, if you're seeing, oops, sorry, but I lost it.
We got you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Oh, Zoom. So my question was just a follow-up. So you'd mentioned that, you know, if you're seeing, you know, a fellow staff member, which would be more my case as opposed to, you know, because I'm not in management or anything like that, but, you know, seeing a fellow staff member, and, you know, you said like maybe they seem down, they seem like they need some help. And you mentioned, and would be my immediate reaction is that, okay, I need to fix this. How can I help? I need to, you know, start talking to them and help them fix it. But you mentioned that you kind of need to take a step back and maybe take a different approach and think differently. So what would you recommend from there? So, you know, I've stopped and I thought, okay, maybe I need to take a different approach than just trying to, you know, blast in there and fix this. So where do you recommend that we go from there?
Very good question. So typically, you know, I encourage people what they need to do, depending on the relationship you have with the staff. But most of the times, I would encourage, like, I would get a book, for example, and say, hey, you know, I was reading this book and like pertaining to something that may be connecting to that individual, whether it's, you know, they exhibiting like depression, where the mood has changed, the demeanor is low, they seem a little bit sluggish when typically they're more of an extroverted mindset. You can use that approach, or you can simply say, hey, you know, I noticed you're not the same perky person. Is everything okay? It's always important not to push people where they feel forceful to share information with you. If they're very anxious in a lot of ways, and you notice that the anxiety level is rising up where they're starting to show signs of being more in a panic mode, or especially with COVID, like I have a lot of, like I deal with a lot of police officers and firefighters and individuals, and also like business people who this COVID has really affected them working at home, or the freedom that they used to have. And so they have similar questions like this, you know, they're seeing the staff or staffers noticing that they're on the edge, like they seem like it's easy for them to have conflict, or maybe it's easy for them to it's like they're not the same person. And because in the work field, you're not really there to make friends or have this buddy, you have to, if you have a caring heart, you have to look at different ways of how you can build some kind of trust. And sometimes, you know, like I worked with, I mean, I could never say that staff would not come to the point of suicide, because I've had to deal with that in my career. I've had 3 that actually committed suicide. That was very devastating. One was an officer, believe it or not, that I worked with. So when you think about someone, the best way is the way how you approach the individual and having a conversation that is not direct. And you allow that gut feeling or that sense that you carry as to how you're going to approach it, because typically human nature, as I said, is to fix it. So I find the strategy of saying, you know, I was reading an article the other day and it was talking about how Canadian workers are struggling with depression and anxiety. What are your thoughts on that? And that opened up a door for that person to share something personal, or, you know, you pick up a magazine or a blog or a podcast or even a book. You bring it in an indirect way. Because it all depends on the relationship you have with that person. And I find that positive way of dealing with things. I have a rule, I call it the 10-90 rule. And the 10-90 rule is, if you can be in a conversation when 90% of that conversation is more on an optimistic level, where you project words of encouragement and words of positivity, and that 10% is observation, or I call it like 10% is like the whip and 90% is the honey, per se. I find that people are more open to come to you because they feel that you're carrying something more positive versus you always want to fix it, or you're always negative, etc.
Excellent answer.
Yeah, can I interject there and ask something, Dr. Harrison? Where do you see the next 6 months going that we could be proactive where everything's at right now? I think what you just said there is worth the entire time we've spent together this morning, the 10-90 rule, because that's very practical, hands-on of all the things that I'm talking about trying to help people. But where do you see the next 6 months going, and what are some, like you said, resource, you know, just making things available and aware articles? These are very simple things we can do just to project out there with people. But what do you see the next 6 months or so going that we could be very proactive in to help in the business community and things like that? If you could give us some ideas and some counsel on that.
Sure. And it's also another good question. You know, I work with a team of about 60 of us with psychologists, and we have a monthly meeting. And coming to the last year before all this lockdown, we were already predicting that mental health is exacerbating, and we need to come up with some strategies and resources available. And there are several universities right now that are offering free courses on mindfulness, where people need to become in tune with themselves. I can forward some of those. I think I've sent some to you, Jeff. I'm not sure in the past, but there are links somewhere in the US and Canada. So developing some kind of coping in the next 6 months, basically, I think people need, like leaders, for example, need to educate the ones around them with strategies that are going to help them deal with what's going on internally. COVID has, which kind of tie into another question someone put on the board. COVID has really put like it's almost like a cover on popcorn on mental health, where people who had mental health or who have mental health, they have been suppressing this mental health. And the reason why I got so busy, and all of us as clinicians are getting busy, is because the popcorn has been popping where the cover is finally coming out and people don't know what to do. And I know, like, you may not know this, but the suicide rate in Canada has increased drastically, and self-harm, because people don't know what to do. It's like life has become unpredictable, especially people who are already on the edge. So teaching them like cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, grounding techniques, simple one-on-one things, even like telling someone to do one good deed a day is very helpful for them. just to kind of get out of their shell and make themselves feel that they are proactive. Anxiety level has increased a lot, and I have a lot of clients who are getting a lot of panic attacks with heart palpitations. So we try to rule out it's not medically first, and then we start dealing with some different techniques to help them. So I have like simple things would be like having a rubber band, and your mind is thinking about COVID, or your mind is thinking about all the different struggles people are going. I tell them to snap the rubber band and get the focus back on the pain of the rubber band. The rubber band is not going to destroy your hands. Or you're at home and you're working and the kids are there and your spouse is there and people are starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. The best strategy, it sounds very simple, but you go down to the fridge, grab a couple ice cubes in your hands, and you have your whole focus from the brain. It goes into the hands. An ice cube will not destroy you as well. In my desk, like I know you cannot see it and I won't tell you a lot, but like I have candles here. I have a diffuser that I use sometimes to kind of create my own way of dealing with the being fatigued, being in an office every day, being in your own home environment. Sometimes you can get like lime and lemons, and basically you're working and you squeeze the lime and lemon, and then you get your focus on your senses. If you can utilize 3 of your 5 senses on something, what it does, it creates a snapshot in the brain. I mean, I'm not here to tell you guys what psychoanalysis, but we can get down and bring some memories from your childhood. And I would ask you the question, why do you think you remember at 5 years old, you got a dolly, for example, you got certain things? It's because your brain have a snapshot. So I've been teaching people how to create positive snapshots in the mind that they'll be able to deal with it and more with this COVID and everything that is coming with the stress around them. So within the next 6 months, I am encouraging people to tap into forms of coping strategies that is going to help them individually versus, because not everybody wants to see a counselor, not everybody wants to go to a therapist, but they can do things at home by themselves.
That's good. That's good. Thank you very much, Dr. Harrison. I appreciate that. And you've personally taught me a lot about asking the questions about taking care of myself, which I've gotten better at, not as good as I should be. Okay. The things you said there about the mindfulness and the cognitive behavioral therapy, bring it all back to in business, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's retail, whether it's office, whether you're a one-person shop organization, whether you're looking to start something, build something, expand something, the world has changed. Care needs to be more than just a word. It needs to be shown, it needs to have that action towards yourself. And so you're saying begin by educating yourself, okay, and then educate those around you. And so from there, it'll expand out. Any other questions? Do you have time for any more? Or Harrison,
I can be with you guys until my next client is at 1. So I kind of
appreciate that.
Here for you guys, but you don't have to be on me. I would love to hear what's happening on your side of the circle.
I was just trying to make it available if anybody had any other specific questions they wanted to ask. This is a great opportunity because I think what you've said is, don't try and fix things. Take a step back. These are very real strategies. Now, is there anything that you would have a question, anyone there that I could answer or that you're looking to, or you have something? I mean, we might as well open it up here. We've got about 15 minutes yet.
Jessica Erickson of Microage Peterborough. Jessica.
Hello, everyone, and thank you guys so much for all the information and details and tips and tricks that you've shared with us thus far. I do have a question. Now that everyone's working from home, or most people are working from home, it's even harder to have that like home and work-life balance and separation. So what are some tips that you guys would give to someone who's working from home and doesn't know how to balance the work life and personal life?
If I could say on my part, try and keep a routine. Okay. Very, 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 very important. If your normal work hours were 8:30 to whatever it is, make sure you take your lunch hour. Don't get up in the morning and leave your pajamas on. Make sure you get up, get prepared for work. I think routine is crucial. I find that helps me tremendously. It helps me be productive. It also helps me to maintain a good center of balance and self-worth, because I feel like I'm making progress. And I think that's one thing we just kind of back off. So from my personal aspect, keeping routine is crucial. You know, if any of you watched the commercials or stuff, and the one guy's sitting at his desk and, you know, he's going, you know, are you wearing shorts? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm wearing shorts because you only see me from this part up. I think routine is crucial. I think connection is crucial. Go the extra mile to make connections. Very, very important. I've found that to be helpful. Any other comments?
I agree with Jeff. You know, like a lot of times when you are working from home, which I have several clients as well, I encourage them to, when they wake up in the morning, they need to dress, they need to put some clothes on, and it builds a bit of a confidence, because when you look nice, you feel good. So that's one of the strategy. And some individuals who may have a smaller place where it's almost like the living room is their office as well. I encourage them to, first of all, they shouldn't be working in their bedroom because you are not separating sleep from your work, and people have a lot of difficulty sleeping, especially in the last, I would say, last 8 to 10 months. It has really gone bad. Sleep cycle has changed a lot with people, not just kids, where kids are going to bed at 5 in the morning and waking up at 3 in the afternoon. That's another sort of problem. But even adults, their sleep habits, patterns have changed a lot. So I have encouraged them to create like a, I call it a sanctuary. It sounds kind of weird, but it's like a sanctuary. And that little sanctuary is like a little table where you have a nice candle and you have some music in the background, maybe a scented candle if you're not allergic to scent, and you get a nice piece of rug where you can actually feel the rug, because it has to do with grounding as well. And so they sit down there, they listen to the music. It's kind of a tranquil environment, and they, I encourage them to do some techniques such as, imagine if the brain had a big eraser and you erase everything for that day, and keep the mind clean, and then inject one word, like a statement, for example, like I am in control, or I am strong, or I am an overcomer, or something to cognitively, it's almost like you're implanting a word of affirmation to yourself. So when you wake up in the next morning, that also changes your work habit. I saw some people talk about on the chat here about the music and everything else. One of the rule of thumb that I also encourage for people with high stress jobs is when you wake up in the morning, you play one song, maybe at least 10 or 20 times, the same song, and you get it drilled in your brain. And when you start working, that song will be playing in the mind, and it keeps you all perked up. It keeps you going. So some of those little techniques also help people as well.
Excellent, excellent mindful tips there. I know Trisha she just had something to kind of say to speak to the point there. Trisha?
It's Jessica who asked the question, wasn't it?
Yes, and
yeah.
no, you messaged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I do, and I've started to do, is meditate. Meditation, and a lot of people think that when you meditate, that you have to be like all zen and your hands like, so I meditate in bed. I put my hands on my heart and I listen to a 10 or 15 minute meditation before I get out of bed. Then I literally get up, I put my feet on the floor and I put my hands on my knees, and I just say, whatever happens today, thank you. And then I have a song that I sing. It's a gratitude song. So, and I mean, I play positive music. I also do what they call tapping. Now you can go on YouTube and find this EFT tapping. It's basically Nick Ortner. If you, I'll type it in the chat thing, but it's, if you type in Jessica Ortner, how to tap, and it's all about alleviating stress, and it's using meridian points. So your eyebrows, side of the eye, under your nose, under your chin, your collarbone, For women, it'd be like where their bra strap is, and then the top of your head, because that's grounding. So I can put that in there for Jessica, but I find those things, because even the bad stuff you have to be grateful for, because we learn more from the, you know, and it sounds awful, but we learn a lot more lessons, I think, from the negative stuff than we do from the good stuff, because the good stuff, everything's going the way we
No
want.
light without the dark. There is no light without the dark.
I can put those in the chat for everybody if you want.
I'd also like to add, you know, I have a quote here from John Maxwell that I really wanted to speak into people's lives, because as leaders and stuff, it says people who add value to others do so intentionally. I say that because to add value, leaders must give of themselves, and that rarely occurs by accident. I'm going to say to you right now, the mental health that you want to experience is not going to happen by accident. It's not going to happen by accident in your life. It's not going to happen by accident in your company or your colleagues. Someone needs to be intentional. I've learned a long time ago that you're not going to be any good to anybody else if you're not good to yourself, that you need to surround yourself with the right people. That's the key. You surround yourself with people that are going the same place, that are thinking the same things. As Dr. Mungal is a personal friend of mine, we've recommended a lot of people that we know, and the reports are always incredible. Sometimes you just have to invest in your life. You know, there's a lot of things we can do for free, but still the same thing is sometimes you need somebody to guide you along the journey. That's what the LIFT program's for. We're there to help people set goals, to move them on down. If they want it, we're there to hold their hand, but be intentional. You're going to have to be intentional in your life. You're going to have to be intentional around you. You're going to have to invest in your life. And sometimes that means you don't have the answers, for somebody that does. Okay. And so I really encourage you in that, and all the time that we've spent and the input people have had and the questions. And another one, even for working from home, you know, a lot of people, they love to have the freedom of schedule, but it's the discipline of schedule that gives you freedom. Okay. You know, you can become, you know, sometimes we're feeling this overwhelming burden that we have to produce. And I'm a producer. I struggle with it. I get it. But sometimes we feel this overwhelming burden that we have to produce, and we won't give ourselves any downtime. And we're putting demands on ourselves that we would never have put on ourselves if we were in the office, because we're at home. We're thinking, am I productive? Am I doing? What can I do? How can I do? Well, you're going to have to recognize that discipline is crucial. So if you'll discipline your time and treat your time right, and use the time too. Here we are. We've got lots of things that we could use. Look, we talked about mindfulness. Okay, we've talked about meditation. We've talked about these things, that cognitive behavioral therapy, things that help. You don't have to be an expert, but can I tell you what? You better get some experts in your sphere of influence. Okay, I really appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Harrison. Thank you. You've really, you know, given us some great ideas. Now, will you put the contact information up and everything? I assume, correct?
Sure, yeah, and I'll email the attendees too. So if you want me to include that in the email, I'm happy to do that. And what a treat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you, Jeff and Harrison. We're grateful. What a tap to get you to come into this today. That's exciting. Thank you. And you're right. And I think leading by example is definitely key. And you know, take your breaks. Don't be so hard on yourself. As kind as you are to others, be kind to yourself too. And thank you. I'll include all the resources, any information that these gentlemen want to share. I'll email it to all of you, so we've got access to it as well. And again, thank you so much for your time today. So grateful.
Okay, so I will email Jeff the mindful courses, and you can forward it to whoever is on Peterborough Chamber of Commerce. I don't know your name.
Tiffany was there.
Okay, and yeah, thanks.